This is all very well if it helps our life inside the company, but probably of wider interest is in terms of how we apply lean in our delivery to clients. Praxis as an organisation both undertakes contract software development work and it also undertakes consultancy, providing advice and support. And so essentially we see opportunities for delivering these technologies both in what we do on our own internal developments where those are fee-earning projects, but also in the skills that we can help our clients with and the problems that we can help our clients address. Take a classic software development example first. If you consider a substantial software project, like the couple of examples I put up earlier, it's not unusual for a project after one milestone and the commencement of a different phase of operation to reassess what it's doing and look at what the new priorities are. We had one project recently which did that review and identified as a key concern that there was a substantial backlog of pending modification requests, change requests of one form or another to some of the, to either to the software or to the documentation baseline. And that was growing. And this is clearly a bad thing because it means that we're not getting through the work and we're not able to plan going forward, and we need to do something about it. So we did some quantitative analysis on what the background and the environment of that problem was. And I'm going to apologise at this point for not actually presenting the quantitative details here. My reasoning is that actually we've got a formal academic paper in preparation on this, and I would like to see a formal publication come out of this. But the headline is really that actually the vast majority of modifications were straightforward, uncontentious, and could be resolved relatively quickly between ourselves and the client or the originator of the modification. What was happening was that there was a small subset of the backlog which was subject to quite a lot of negotiation, clarification, rework. And someone with a background in the production engineering and lean in the production environment will recognise that as a lot of backflow. That's a bad, that's essentially wasted activity. So we looked to make a change there, and James Lee, one of our team leads, quickly identified that there was a change which would make his life very much easier, and it was as simple as slightly modifying an existing checklist for the review of change requests and modifying the time at which the first review against that checklist was done. So rather than get to the point where the modification was due to some sign-off before the review was done, we insert essentially a quick review on initial receipt of the request into James's team. And what that was doing is essentially shortening the point. So the point at which issues or uncertainties were identified was brought forward. The amount of time we spent going around that waste loop was reduced, and the result was a significant reduction in modification backlog in that team, and that's actually been a sustained subsequent improvement. And one or two other things on there which we'll hope to get a chance to talk about on some other occasion. The final example I would like to talk about what we're doing in this area is a slightly more general and slightly wider discussion around the production of safety cases for approval. Part of our business is helping clients and doing safety engineering for clients where they are preparing documentation to be submitted to an authority, and the authority will sign off to say that the solution is acceptable. The assessment can be quite rigorous. The standards against which the assessment takes place are quite prescriptive and in some cases quite detailed and box ticking, and it is probably no coincidence that that is a snapshot of the same DO178 document that was put up this morning. And some of the quantities of evidence that are required can be very large. Coming from an aircraft background, I was on one occasion asked to advise on a safety case, and so I said, yeah, okay, can I read the safety case? Expecting that there would be a document which summarised it, and then maybe a file full, or possibly at worst a pallet load of documentation as a background. And I was told, oh no, the safety case lives in a warehouse. It was a very large system and it had a lot of history, but essentially there was a warehouse, and every time they revised a document, they just truckloaded it in there. But if we look at the process of gaining safety satisfaction from a lean point of view, then there's actually a very clear statement of value. The value to us is the signature of the authority on the document that says our product is acceptable for use in a particular environment. Any evidence which doesn't actually change the authority's mind as to whether or not they're going to give you that signature is not really helpful. It's waste. And so the general approach here, which we refer to as white box safety, is to make our safety arguments and our evidence sets dependent on the context in which a piece of equipment is being used or a particular development is taking place, and to focus on the argument rather than the evidence asked for by any of the standards. Yes, this has a problem in that you have to be able to take the regulator with you, and you have to be able to get their buy-in to essentially signing off on an argument rather than a warehouse full of paperwork. But by and large, that isn't the problem, because they don't want to have to read the warehouse full of paperwork any more than you want to have to write it. And there are substantial benefits in terms of the amount of evidence and the amount of work and sensitivity to change. Obviously, if you have a large quantity of documentation, you change something, you need to reissue all those documents. If you've not got a very clever certification scheme, a very clever documentation scheme, you end up reprinting a lot of wasted information. And this is something that I think the whole industry has been moving towards. There's now quite a fairly common use of the sort of diagram I've got on the right-hand side there, which is a goal-structured diagram to capture the essence of a safety argument. It's not, please let me run this product because I've complied with the standard. It's please let me run this product because I've convinced you that this product can't harm anyone. And if you look at the newer safety standards and more recent work in the standardization area, hopefully that includes 178C, although possibly not as much as we would like, I suspect, they are strongly supportive of this approach.
Is which on safety assurance arguments will go to 178C?
Oh, thank you. I am reassured. Again, for those who follow standards, I had a version of the previous slide which originally had a picture of Def Stand 0056 on the front, which is actually much friendlier than 178. Just finally now, to summarise where I think we've got to in our journey with Lean, there is a tendency, and certainly I think a default assumption, to believe that the high integrity communities, the heavily regulated communities like aerospace, like defence, like nuclear, like air traffic control, are inflexible. And that if we're talking lean, we're talking agile, we're talking about change in business process, that there's going to be a need for change there. And we've had questions this morning about how we go about getting management buy-in for change. Even in this environment, we found lean useful. It's helped us, even if we're still left with arguments with the regulators on occasion. Reducing waste is lower cost, it is improved timescale, it is more profit. And generally it helps us make our company a comfortable place to work, as well as an impact on the product. And just as a final slide there really is just a few bullets on the focus there. We're talking about eliminating waste, we're talking about eliminating defects early, we're talking about getting value captured as early as possible, and keep giving ourselves the flexibility to take a lean approach and to keep the value chain into its core. Okay.